Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Eat, Drink, and Be Merry show, where we love to talk about food, drink, recipes, and techniques, and where to shop, taste, and play. Let's go. Welcome, everyone. It is time to find out who cut the cheese. We've got Chef Ivan Flowers back on the show. Ivan is a 5-star chef and also a culinary instructor teaching high school students in Temecula, California. And he is back on the show to talk to us about cheese, because there is a world of cheese. And oh my gosh, every time he's on a podcast, we start talking about cheese. And then we kept saying we better just do a show on cheese. And today we're finally doing a show on cheese, and we're going to talk about hard and soft cheese, right? Ivan, welcome back. How are you?
Good. How are you guys? Nice to be with you.
Yeah, we're doing good. Nancy, are you ready to find out who cut the cheese? You know?
I already know it was you.
Well, all right, Ivan, but this is, cheese is like, I think even as kids, maybe we were used to like grilled cheese sandwiches, like the old, those slices, and you melt them, and those are still good. I'm sorry, but a can of tomato soup and a grilled cheese sandwich is not a bad deal. I'm sorry.
You can't beat it. Can't beat it.
No, it's
cheese is okay. It's a massive terrain. There's over 2,000 varieties of cheese in the world, and you could spend the next 5 years talking about cheese, the history of cheese, the culture of cheese. I mean, it's just it just goes on forever. I mean, one of the greatest investments. I always had it in the bathroom. I still think about it. The Cheese Bible, which is as thick as the yellow pages, and I used to always read about cheese when I was in the bathroom.
Well, we're off to a good start on this show.
Alrighty then.
Well, no cheese. Okay, so I want to talk about soft cheese. Let's go there first, because I know this is something that people serve at holiday parties, and then we get the big cheese balls with the walnuts on the side and all that. There's different colors of cheese. You're right. There is the Bible of cheese. I want the cheese Bible. But soft cheese is something. Nancy got goats when I was a baby, literally, so she could make goat cheese, and we did just hang out with a goat, but that's a whole other story.
Oh, so much fun.
But goat cheese is like, and there's so many goat cheeses, and then we've talked to cheesemongers before, and cheese people from around the world who talk about like your cheese will change according to what you're feeding your goats or sheep, or because we can have sheep, goat, and cow, right? Because sheep can be in there. With
and buffalo. And buffalo.
Oh,
yes.
That's right. You're right. Buffalo cheese.
And buffalo.
I forgot about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
How do you milk a buffalo? Yikes.
Carefully.
Yeah.
Careful.
You might want to put a helmet on. I'm just saying, I ain't going in there. But just not. But the cheese thing. So let's talk a little bit about that, because there's the soft and there's the hard, and then there's the ones with the rind that are kind of semi-soft, semi-hard in the middle. And everyone, we are talking about cheese, just clarifying. But goat cheese, is that the only soft cheese, or are there other soft cheeses from the other animals?
There's 3 kinds of soft. To be considered a soft, it has to have a 50% moisture content. So with the soft cheese, there's 3 types. There's fresh, there's bloomy rind, and there's wash rind. Okay? Fresher cheeses like mozzarella and ricotta and goat.
We've made that.
Bloomy rind are Brie, Humboldt, and Camembert. And a washed rind is Taleggio, Munster. Like, for example, a Munster rind is washed with a brine or moistened. Then, if you go into a semi-soft, that's 40 to 45% moisture. Port Salut, Harvati, Stilton, Fontina. If you go into a hard cheese, that's less than 40%, and that's Swiss, Gouda, Pecorino, Cheddar. Then you can go into ripe cheeses versus non-ripe. So a ripe cheese is aged to develop a stronger flavor, and it's done with bacteria or mold.
Yeah.
So that's
And
when they
then
say
there's,
that
you know,
you smell ripe. That means you've been
yes.
Means you
Yes.
better eat
you've
it.
been cultivating your dirtiness for a while.
But
Yes.
when Lisa was growing up, the doctor told me she was lactose intolerant and told me to get her goat milk. So I got goats and I learned to milk them. And and I still don't understand the difference between why the goat milk was okay because it's still milk.
But it's
And
not. So this is unripe,
and
right? This would be unripe cheese, goat cheese,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
soft goat cheese.
so,
Mm-hmm.
Why
but
is that? Doesn't that have
yeah, I don't
lactose?
get it.
What's with the
I don't
lactose?
know.
Why is the cow milk not good if you're
It's
lactose
because I was
intolerant?
allergic to cow milk and not necessarily goat milk. So the lactose
Yeah.
was because a lot of people can have all kinds of milks,
Well, they said it
almond
was
milk,
lactose, that you were lactose intolerant.
but it's going to be about like cow versus goat lactose. Like
Yeah.
there's going to be different acids, and because even still, what their milk is, I don't think you can make a hard cheese from a goat, can you? Isn't it always kind of a soft cheese? So it's going to be a
Yeah.
different milk.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's a different milk. It's a different makeup entirely. Yeah. Different animal, different whole structure.
But the ripe and the unripe. So the ripe is when it's the stinky cheese, and the unripe is
Yes.
it's not so stinky. Okay, so
Yes.
just like
Yeah.
a human
And
body.
you know, you can't judge it. You know, there are some cheeses like I remember I once had a bagnon of goat cheese wrapped in grape leaves. You could smell it literally on the other side of the restaurant. You open this cheese up and you literally went to your knees. Now, a lot of people would not even try it. It doesn't taste the way it smells. It's completely different, but it's strong. You have to be ready for a cheese like that. When you serve a cheese like that, you have to tell people this is what's going on. Some people adore it. Other people won't touch it. I remember I had a delivery guy once and I said, "You want to try this?" And he goes, "Okay." And he flipped out. He started getting a glass, wrenching his mouth out. "What have you done to me?" You know, it's just, that's the world of cheese. I mean, we're
that's
talking
kind of
about
like
they've done this
breadfruit,
for,
right? Breadfruit because we eat with our nose. I mean, that's part
yes,
of our tasting palate.
yes.
But the breadfruit things, doesn't it smell like a dead body? And some people love it, and some people are like, "There's no way in hell I'm touching that."
The Dorian. Oh, yeah.
Oh, Dorian.
Oh, yeah.
Not breadfruit. Dorian. Okay.
Dorian, yeah. And Dorian is like, woof, you know, but it's really big in Asia. I mean, I like it. I really like it. But it freaks a lot of people out.
Would you mix
Same
it with
thing with
cheese?
truffles.
Let's go to the Dorian. Would you pair Dorian fruit with a stinky cheese to match the stinkiness?
No, absolutely not. No, I would pair it with like a ricotta, something completely neutral. But I would not.
Mellow.
I would not take a strong cheese and pair it with something else strong. The strong cheese works on its own. So, like, when you're doing a strong cheese, I mean, when we talk about what would you pair with different cheeses, well, I say, like beers, wines, champagnes, nice. Mixed drinks, nowadays with mixology, I'm not going to do a goat cheese with a margarita. I'm not going to do, some kind of cocktail that has a ton of sugar and herbs and all of this, and then pair it with a blue vein. It's not going to work. I mean, there's no rules, but don't fight against the cheese. Let the cheese, let the cheese be the cheese.
Yeah. Now, what is your thought on? Because like when you do a good steak, right, like a filet, sometimes people put blue cheese on the steak.
Yes.
Yeah.
Some people love that, and some people are totally like, "Don't you do that to the meat."
Yeah.
I'm like, just give me the blue cheese and the bacon.
Yes. On a filet mignon, which is very, very lean, it works. I wouldn't put it on a ribeye. I wouldn't put it on skirt steak that's fatty. I'm not going to do a strong and a richer cheese with a fattier meat. So that's why it works so well on filet mignon, because it's so lean. And filet is tender, but there's not a lot of flavor. So the blue works.
Okay. So is cream cheese still a cheese?
Cream cheese is a cheese, yes.
Okay, because Nancy got into this at one point, because we've talked about this on shows over the years of Nancy's the omelet queen, and it's about the temperature and the egg not getting too hard. And like, you should have just seen what I made for breakfast. You would, I can tell him what I made.
Stop it.
No, I can tell. So I made latkes. Yes.
Oh, latkes.
Nancy and I, but so Ruth Milstein is on our show. She did latkes for Hanukkah, right? And I promised her I'd make these latkes, and I did. But she puts carrot in hers because she's all about healthy, and she says put some carrot in the potato. And I didn't know, but she made me squeeze the potato, the grated potato, and it did. It did squeeze. There was potato juice. I'm like, really? Well, you have to squeeze it. I squeezed the taters. And instead of carrots, there was in the fridge, because, we just got here, in the fridge, there was one of those bags of salad mix that was for like a stir fry. So it had, Nancy, yes, you did eat broccoli. I didn't tell you. And a little kale.
I knew about
and
it,
carrot.
Lisa.
Yeah, it was all thin, chopped up like a coleslaw kind of thing. So I was like, well, it's got carrot. It's got a little broccoli. It's got a little kale. Throw it in there. Sure. So I did.
Of course.
And I made latkes, and they were pretty tasty. I put a lot of hot sauce in it. Yeah. And then this morning, I took the rest of the mixture and I made 2 miniature omelets. I heated it up so the potato mixture was cooked. Then I threw 2 eggs on it. This is all in a small frying pan, and I cut it in half. I put cheese on top of it, the whole thing. And then I cut it in half and then flipped it. So there were 2 mini omelets cooking with egg and cheese in the center. And I think we have like a Colby cheese. This is just, I haven't gotten the story yet. I'm like, I'm going to use what's here, and what we have. And actually, I don't know if it's just that put hot sauce on everything and it fixes it. But I mean, that's kind of a healthy breakfast. But if the cheese wasn't in there, I don't know. I think the cheese, I didn't tell Ruth I put cheese on it. She'll listen to this and go, do what she always says, experiment like you do. I put cheese on it, and just that little hint, and the Colby wasn't over. It was nothing fancy. I think it was a Colby. It was yellow and the whitey. I don't know. It was just what it was.
Yeah, that's Colby.
It wasn't overdone and it didn't overpower, but it was something pretty good. I mean, it kind of helped the vegetables.
Well, it sounds delicious.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of fun, but you melt things in cheese. Nancy did. Anyway, that was my omelet today. Nancy used to do omelets, and we experimented with all kinds of cheese. And then she got into this mode of using cream cheese. She would saute mushrooms and onion and garlic on one side. And then I don't know how you did it where the cream cheese wasn't cold. I think you just left it out room temperature. But the omelet was made with cream cheese, and then you had the filling with cream cheese and onion, mushroom, and garlic. Yeah. It was already cooked.
Yeah, that worked.
That's
sure.
It
was good.
Do you remember making that? It was this. Because you had the caramelization, it worked from the mushrooms and the onion and garlic.
My grandmother, who came from England, she used cream cheese in almost everything. Like if you got a bowl of soup, there are going to be cubes of cream cheese tossed in the bowl of soup. And she put it on top of steaks when they were grilling. On the flip side, when you've grilled one side, you flip it over. She put cream cheese on the top, and she used it all the time.
So she's using cream.
Yeah.
Okay.
And cream. What is butter made from? Cream. So yeah, it works absolutely. We're doing spaghetti squash latke, and we're going to bake it. And then, sometimes we'll put a little alouette, which is a creamy, garlicky boursin, into, because you don't have to deep fry latkes. You can bake them and they come out just as crispy.
That's
you don't get all that oil.
I baked the latkes. Good. Wait a minute. Spaghetti squash latke? Okay. I know we're talking cheese, but wait a minute. And even mixing spaghetti squash and cheese is a whole thing to me. That's a different thing. Now, are you cooking the spaghetti squash so it becomes a spaghetti thing and then making latkes out of it?
Yes, you roast it in the oven, and then you take the fork and you turn it into the strands, and you get all the excess water out, and then you're going to put in onions and whatever seasoning you want, and you're going to we put in egg beaters, and whole wheat flour, and you form them and you cook them. You bake them.
Nancy, we're doing this. I'm going to go get a spaghetti squash today. I am. I love spaghetti.
They're in season. They're in season.
My grandmother taught me that cream cheese, she said it was a binder. That it imparted mild flavor and it kept things from drying out, so it kept the moisture in. It was a binder. It was a moist binder.
Oh, you said moist. Both of you have been saying moist quite a bit.
That he said it kept the seasoning from leaving the item that you put the seasoning on. She had this thing about if he heated up the pan too much, the seasoning would jump off the steak or something. So she used the cream cheese as something to make sure the seasoning stayed where she wanted it. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. Well, there's mascarpone, which is Italian cream cheese. And if you ever taste really good mascarpone, it's sweet. And then you look, there's no sugar in it. It's the milk that they're using from the cows that they're raising. That cream, for some reason, has a natural sweetness to it. So mascarpone is fabulous to use in a lot of things. A true good mascarpone.
Could you put that into the omelets instead of the cream cheese?
Sure. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, the mozzarella, I remember we were at a farm and doing cooking videos with them and like farm recipes. And this was a cattle farm. And so they were going to show us how to make mozzarella. And honestly, I think we all drank too much wine and it turned into ricotta. And you could eat it right there. I mean, I don't understand. What did we do? Somehow the mozzarella turned into ricotta.
Ricotta is the byproduct of mozzarella, kind of. Mozzarella is actually very, very easy. All you need is curd, boiling water, and salt. And it just comes together beautifully. And then you form it with your hands. And then you either do the ovaltine, you do the strands, you do the balls. But making mozzarella is so simple and so easy. And fresh mozzarella, when it comes out of the warm water, is to die for.
It is. But how did we get to ricotta? It was the wine then. Like, I don't know.
It was the wine. Yeah, I think you added too much water, or the water got a little too cold. Or, you got to practice it.
But they were able to use it. They didn't care. They're like, oh, well, if you do this is how we ended up with ricotta, and it tasted good. And in fact, they made a chili, and we took the chili and we actually put the ricotta on the chili, which I was like, ricotta on chili? Well, actually, it was good. The chili was a little over seasoned, I'm just saying. But again, wine. We were having, and you know what it was? We were in Tennessee and we were drinking Tennessee whiskey. Yeah. Remember, Nancy? Yeah. Remember that? And they kept saying, here, just taste a little of this. This is Tennessee stuff. And so I don't know what happened, but this cooking thing went a little haywire. And it was fun. And so then we put the ricotta on it and it actually worked. It was weird, but it added like this.
Sure.
Some people put sour cream.
Absolutely. Sour cream, ricotta. Yeah.
Okay. So these are
people
all
put cheddar cheese on chili. Yeah.
Oh, that's what we do. We use cheddar mostly, but then cojito. Cojito is that Mexican cheese, right? And that's kind of a softer. Yes. Cotija. Sorry. Cotija. Yeah. It's crumbly though. It's different.
Yeah.
It's crumbly.
It's more towards a harder cheese. Cotija.
Okay, so it's not soft; it's crumbly.
It's a good it's a good finishing cheese. You sprinkle on top.
Cheshire cheese in England. Cheshire cheese was a thing, and still is a thing. And it is like oh my God, I love Cheshire cheese. Oh God, I can't stand it that we're talking about it. I don't have any. I'm gonna cry right now. No, because it's like cheddar. Move the hell over. Cheshire cheese is in town.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
It is
cheese can be intense. Oh, yeah.
Oh, Cheshire.
I remember
Cheshire cheese. Oh, but it was crumbly sometimes.
Yeah, I was in London many years ago, and I was in like a wine tasting in this very fancy church in the basement. They had this huge wheel of Stilton, and it was covered in maggots. I don't know why. But that's how they did it. And then he took a punch, and they would pull a piece out, and they did it with a port. a Tawny port.
Yep.
I
Yes.
never forgot the combination of that wine with that cheese. It was unbelievable.
Oh, well, this
Unbelievable.
makes good sense. So in January of this year, we sat for some friends, Pet sat for some friends in Oregon, and they went to Portugal. And the last time they did that, they tried to bring us port back. And then, like, it didn't work. Like, they almost had like a little skirmish at the airport because it was whatever. And so this time they knew how to get it through. And they brought us this bottle of port, and I just saw the photo today. I think it was like amazing. And we had this port. Oh God, this port was. So we went to our friend Andrea, who used to have a bed and breakfast, and man, she can cook anything. Oh my God. I told her, I'm like, we have this special port. We need to have this port. And she had a friend there. We had this. She does these big chicken kakazan or coca. I don't know. She does this chickeny thing. This amazing, like one pot roasted meals, right? Mm. And then dessert. She had like chocolate, and she had these, and it was almost like she had one kind of cheesecake with pomegranate, and then she had these chocolate eclairs. So it had the cream on the inside with some chocolate, like it was like a puff pastry with the cream puffs. That's what it is. But the cream was almost like sour cream. So we had the cheesecake with the pomegranate on it, and there's a little bit of chocolate, but the cheesecake and this port. And both of them, both the pairings were to die for. And it had to do with
memorable.
Because the port was creamy, you know, and these desserts were creamy, and the port gave us all a buzz, and it was snowing and carrying on. We're like,
port is
this
strong.
Is a magical night.
Port.
Yeah. Nancy, remember that? Nancy's cheeks were bright red. She was smiling from ear to ear. Nancy's sitting there like, I'll have some more, please. But that pairing, the cheesecake. So cheesecake, what's in a cheesecake? There's something.
Cream cheese.
Someone did. Cheese. Are we back to that again?
Or mascarpone.
Oh, the cheesecake that's a human treasure. Like if you could put something in a
deceptively light. When you eat a cheesecake, deceptively light, but it's not. It's not. It's got a lot of cheese in there, so it comes across on the palate as light, but it's like, I remember Junior's cheesecakes in Brooklyn. My dad would bring them home. They weighed like 15 pounds.
Yeah, heavy ones.
And I, as a kid, I would eat them and literally put on like 10 pounds in 2 weeks because I couldn't stop eating it. I couldn't stop shoving it into my mouth. And spoon after spoon after spoon.
Oh my God, Nancy, we need cheesecake for Christmas.
Well, no, but I used to make a lot of cheesecake, and when I first started making it, most of the recipes had cottage cheese, and that sucked. It just didn't work unless you took a fork and mashed the cottage cheese out and drained it. And then it was like, just go get.
But is cottage cheese really a cheese? What is this? This is like a whole new thing. I don't know if TikTok is staying around or not. But
if I remember recipes with cottage cheese as your cheese,
it's a big
fraction part is not as easy as cream cheese.
But it's become a big deal.
Mellow and tasty and smooth.
It's become a big deal this year. I think even last year it was, where people started some TikTok trend of cottage cheese being in everything. And Nancy's like, hell no. And I remember trying to lose weight as a teenager going, I'm going to eat cottage cheese and carrots. And that didn't last. But is cottage cheese a cheese, or is it just like what is it? Like,
no, cottage cheese is a cheese. It's curds. Yeah. It's a cheese. The trick when you buy cottage cheese, like you have to look on the label. You don't want a cottage cheese. The average cottage cheese is 450 milligrams of sodium. We get a cottage cheese that's got 60, and it is so rich and thick, it almost tastes like croqueta. If you put a little sugar or Splenda in it, it tastes exactly like the filling of a cannoli.
Wow.
Because it's so rich and thick, because it's not heavily salted. It's just it's the greatest cottage cheese I've ever had.
Can you whip it so it's not all lumpy like that? Because it's weird. The lumpy
put
thing
it in a
can turn people
RoboKill.
off. Yeah.
Yes, put it in a RoboQ.
Okay.
Mm.
And
or,
then,
you can put it in a sieve overnight, let it drain like Nancy was saying, get the excess moisture out, whip it, and then if you want, you can add a little bit of mascarpone to it. You could add other cheese to it. You experiment. Cooking is all experimentation.
Well, you can take cheese and mix them together. I think some cheese balls have like more than one cheese in them, right? Where they start squeeze your cheese,
Squeeze the cheese.
My grandmother little what she called teacups because she's British, and she'd make a little pastry dough and put it in a muffin tin, and then she'd bake the dough halfway done, and then she'd go back and put cottage cheese and cream cheese together in the little muffin tins. Bake it for a few minutes, then pull it out, put grated cheddar cheese on top, put it back in the oven, then pull it out and shake Parmesan on top of it and put it back in. They were awesome. It was the weirdest recipe. And she said she would stand in the kitchen the whole time. She's like, you can't leave. If you don't do it exactly to the minute, it wouldn't work because you didn't want the pastry to burn. But you had to have it half done, and it was cream cheese mixed with cottage cheese and different spices, and
of course, it's delicious.
Yeah, they were so good.
Wow,
it was really good.
And
I'm gonna have to try that.
You're gonna bring up Parmesan cheese, and this is Parmesan is such a universal cheese, yet there is a night and day difference from the freeze-dried kind of Parmesan cheese to...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, tell everybody about how to do Parmesan cheese.
If you're gonna use a Parmesan, the best thing to have is buy a good Parmesan. There's a Rocca, which is 8 years old. They actually age it for 8 years. If you're going to use Parm, get a good wedge of Parm and keep that in the fridge and grate it fresh every time you use it. Also, when you're done with it, you have the rind. Save that rind because when you put that rind into, let's say you're making spaghetti sauce, tomato sauce, whatever, you put that rind in and that rind just puts the most incredible umami, buttery flavor. And then you can eat the rind. It's delicious.
Wow.
But Parmesan is wonderful because it's low fat and it's low salt. If you don't want to use a lot of salt, but you want flavor, have a wedge of Parm in your fridge and keep it wrapped in paper.
Oh, I was going to ask you about that because everyone keeps putting plastic on cheese. And from what I've read, cheese doesn't want the plastic.
No.
It sweats.
Okay. So what about like when you go to the store? Okay, someone's going to the grocery store and they go get their block of I'm not here to put brand names out there, but I'm just trying to, so there's a general understanding. You'll get the big block of Tillamook or something like that. I kind of feel the same way about vegetables. People go and put their vegetables and produce and fruit in a bag and put it in their fridge or leave the bag on the counter with the fruit in. And from what I like sweaty, like it's like, I'm going right back into that SNL thing with the public radio about cheese balls. But anyway, you don't want things to be sweaty as far as I remember.
Sweaty balls?
Yes. Thank you, Nancy.
That's it.
She said it. But so like if you go get that brick of cheese, do you want to keep it in the sweatiness or do you wrap it in like a parchment paper? What would be the way to store your
parchment or butcher's paper or the paper that they wrap the cheese in when they give it to you?
Oh,
like,
so
you go and
the deli part. Go to the deli, not necessarily the aisle. Go to the actual cheese part of the store.
And you want to buy, cheese in, like chunks. You don't always have to buy, I want a half a pound sliced provolone, a half a pound sliced mozzarella. It's like, if you ever go to a fancy restaurant and you have a sommelier come over, they can intimidate you because their wine knowledge is just massive. You either like the wine or you don't. A cheesemonger there are some that really explain the cheese with simplicity, or they get so technical and so crazy, you don't even want to buy the cheese. You start to feel like, you know what, I don't know. So basically, when you're going to do a cheese platter, you want to do a soft, a ripe, a semi-soft, and a hard. But you don't want them to fight with each other. You know, you don't want all like big blues and Stiltons, and you know, you want to kind of balance it out. And when you do a cheese platter, it's so important that you put the wedges on and you leave negative space. You put some grapes, strawberries, some nuts, different things, so people can cut the cheese. You know, you don't put little squares with toothpicks.
Yeah. Okay, the little square. Yeah, you know, I like that when you go somewhere. But I know I asked you this on the last show or two about brie because of the rind, right? And I didn't know, can you eat it? And then you're like, Lisa, you need to leave the brie out, let it become room. Because cheese shouldn't be this cold, hard thing. And then you're serving wine. And because and I think that is part of the digestion thing. Our bodies do not like cold things, actually. They don't.
No.
You know,
well, you think about cheese that's triple cream. That's 75% cream. Under 75%, about 60% is double cream. If that's in the refrigerator, that's hard. That's hard as a brick. You've got to leave it out for at least an hour to an hour and a half, and it's got to weep. It has to start to weep so you can handle it. We do brie baked in a boule. You know, where we put it in a bowl and we bake it, and it is like to die for. And the best part of it is the rind.
See, this, okay, because it adds a texture to it. And like I've eaten it before, and I'm like, this isn't bad. And people are like, you can't, you're eating wax. And I'm like, no, that's Frida and eat them. You know,
to be clear, you're not talking about cheese that's been dipped in wax. When you say rind, you're talking about the actual. No, I just want to be sure that people get that part.
Yeah, good point. Because what is that rind? What is the rind made of? Because but Gouda and Edam have a wax rind, right?
Yes, they do.
And you peel it off when you cook. And even some of the smoked Goudas have it. There's that one around Applewood smoked Gouda with a brown rind, and it's kind of dude. There's some things you can do with that if you use that in a macaroni. Anyway,
yes.
But the Edam and Gouda is what South Africa. Oh my God! Like you talk about they put that thing in there and they come up with a strip of cheese. This big wheel of cheese. And I'm like, give me the wheel. I'll take the whole wheel and the winery, please. And just let me have my own room. I'll be happy. But that's a different thing. That is like a man-made wax to preserve it and let it do its culturing thing, right?
And then you cut wedges out of that. You peel off the wax, but the remaining cheese, you leave that on there and wrap it in paper. That keeps the cheese correct.
But that cheese,
don't take it all
coming
off.
out of the wax, has its own rind. You know what I mean? I don't know how to explain it, but like it's
got a tight skin. Yes,
it does have like a little skinny skin layer that is like this thin skin between the wax and the cheese. But that skin, so when you're eating brie and there's that rind, and like Münster, which has got a thinner rind. What is the rind made up of? Is that, I mean, you say it's safe to eat, but what is it so people can, is it just like the outer, like the crust of a bread
it's like an apple skin, only
than
thicker.
The inside. Yeah. Like the crust, a wheel of the bread, that's a little bit crispier and tougher. It's still the same loaf of bread. Is that the same thing with cheese?
Yeah. Well, brie, the wine is it's washed.
Oh,
so
it's a wash.
That's what creates the skin because it's washed.
Yeah.
Okay. So it says.
See, if it's red,
I have to tell you, ladies, I'm sitting here. I could talk food for centuries. When it came to cheese, I researched this. Tracy researched this, and we did notes because you really have to know what you're doing when you make cheese. I mean, I could not make these. This is like you really temperature, enzymes, rennet. I mean, this goes on. Whoa, right? So you have to really know. Most people enjoy the rind. Some people don't.
When I was making cheese from the goat milk, the next door neighbor who also had goats said you need to only use milk from one goat, make the cheese from one goat only, don't mix the goat milk together from the 4 goats. And he said you'll find they taste different, and they did. So I'm still trying to figure that out because they were eating the same food and they were the same kind of goats. So, but each goat's cheese tasted slightly different.
That's getting weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's true.
But how do they do this now with big manufacturing, right? Goat cheese they just put everyone's milk in one thing and that's what you get.
Yeah.
Well, you try to get from small farms if you can that make small batches. But, if you think about cheese, the complexity, why it does so well with wine, think about the complexity of wine. Mm-hmm. Think about how a vintage tastes different every single year and how every day the wine changes. The cheese changes. The cheese develops. It's different every day. So, I'm on death row. My last meal is bread, cheese, and wine. That's it.
I'm with you.
There you go.
I'll come to death row with you because, that's the thing. I mean, we have this fabulous wine. Peggy Fiandaca has a podcast with us every first Wednesday, and her husband run LDV Winery in Arizona. They're out in the Cochise Valley area, where the winery is, and it's on volcanic soil. And she just sent us like a bunch of wine. And it's special.
So good.
Some of it is like the signature wine, and some of it, the Rhyolite wine, is over this. This is the wine where the vineyard, the grapes, all these petite Syrahs are like, they're Syrahs. Even talking about it and having the right cheese for it, I want to talk about that because it's like, I'm going to drool just talking about it because this one on the Rhyolite is where there's more volcanic soil in their vineyard. And so it's the same thing with the goats. It's not just about their food. It's about where they are. I mean, they could have the same grape growing 5 rows down and it's a whole other wine. Same season, same everything, but 5 rows down didn't have as much volcanic soil as this one. And they'll both be wonderful, but completely different flavor profile. And that's what I've learned about. Goat cheese is like pure in that if they had chives or clover in their field that they're grazing on, you're going to taste that,
Yeah. Yes. Look at tomatoes. Absolutely. Look at San Manzano tomatoes that they grow in the volcanic soil by, I think it's Mount Vesuvio. They're the best tomatoes in the world because of the soil. They taste like no other tomato in the world.
You just said tomatoes, and now I'm thinking I want olives, really good olives. I want sun-dried tomatoes, some good bread, and some cheese and some wine. And a good view of the ocean. Does that not sound good and healthy? That's it. Who needs more?
That's life. That's a big part of life. Yes.
When my mom used to attempt to make a cheese plate, and I'm thinking this was Gorgonzola cheese that came.
Oh, I love Gorgonzola.
In a ball with red wax, and she would slice the cheese with the wax on it and put it on the plate with the wax. And most people would separate the cheese from the wax, but my mom would just eat it with the wax.
No, well, that's your mom.
I know. And then I found out later if she was making macaroni and cheese.
No.
She would throw the cheese in the wax.
No. Stop
it. And, so one day I was trying to tell her this is not really part of the cheese, it's wax. And she's like, no, it's not. And this is so funny. This was her test. She says, if it's wax, how come you can't color a picture with it? I'm like, what?
Okay. Well, this is a difference. This is where your mother did not learn from your grandmother. So Gorgonzola's got more of
But
like
it
a
was
white and
funny.
bluish thing going to it. It's almost like blue
Yes,
cheese,
yes,
but not quite
it's a blue
100%.
vein. Yeah.
It's a light.
There's Gorgonzola, there's Cambozola. One of the greatest cheeses, a washed rind, is Taleggio. Taleggio comes in squares, a square low block, and wrapped in this paper.
Had that.
It's a blue vein. It's almost like a strong blue vein brie, and it has this brown rind on it, and it is like to die for.
I think
it's
I've had
almost
it.
truffly. Yeah.
See, this is it. When people have parties and they have cheese trays, like I go, that's like, I don't care what's going on. I'm going to need the cheese tray because there's cheeses I have no clue about. And I feel like I should photograph the cheese tray and go on Google search and see what the heck I'm eating.
Yeah.
And I wish people would put a sign up so that you know what the hell it is, because there's all these, but if, some people know I don't know all the cheeses. What you said, there's how many? Over 2,000 varieties? I don't know.
2,000.
That's
2,000.
insane.
Another thing that's fabulous. We had the students do this a week ago. I had a fontina that was in the red wax. So we cut it off, and I taught them how to make fondue. Because fondue is very easy to make. And
I love that.
It takes a minute. I mean, it's so simple to make. And they were dipping French baguette into this fontina, and then we're adding just a touch of truffle powder to it. Now, these are 14 and 15-year-olds, right? And they were like, this is delicious. How do you explain this? I said, well, this is umami. This is pure umami. This is what umami means. The crisp bread, the cheese, that melty, gooey. Oh, my God.
This is why George from Seinfeld had a sandwich and sex in bed at the same time.
Yes,
right? Yes. I'm just saying.
That's right.
I'm sorry.
Pastrami.
I mean, it was on TV for everyone to see, so I felt I was allowed to say that. That is
a
the
pastrami sandwich.
Yeah. Now, okay, so when you made the fondue, because I know Nancy was like, she used to have fondue parties all the time. She had one crock pot of cheese, one with the chocolate and the rum in it for angel food cake. Yeah. But the cheese, she was adding, I think she put some white wine in there. Nancy, I think you put a little white wine in the cheese.
Yeah, I always put a little bit of white wine, but
and something else.
At the very last second, I put the herbs went first. Well, actually, in the crock pot, I put butter first, then I put the herbs, then I put the ingredients and the cheese on top. And it had to have a lid on it for so long, or the cheese wouldn't do what you wanted it to do. And then you take the lid off, and then put it down to low to keep it warm, and let people dish right out of the crock pot. So nothing would get cold. And not mix.
Also, you can take the white wine, you bring it to a simmer, you put your cheese in, and then over the cheese you take a sieve and you put cornstarch in, and you shake it. Yeah, I knew there was
a floury thing in there. Yeah.
Now that brings it together. And then you finish with a little kirsch, which is a cherry liqueur, and then you hold it on a low flame, and because that's all coming back now. High-waisted jeans and fondue are coming back, and bell-bottoms.
I'm all for it, but bell-bottoms, the high-waisted jeans, I'm not such a fan of.
No,
that's that's not, and especially when they started doing was it breeches? What do you call the things that breeches? What do you call the things that hold the pants up and it's high-waisted? Those suspenders. We used to call them breeches. Suspenders and the high-waisted jeans. No. None of that. But this is fascinating. Now, when you talk about pairings, too, this is so cool because fondue is kind of like that, right? And what you dip into the cheese. So cheese boards are like that. And the holiday season, going into New Year's, cheese board, like fruit and cheese, wine and cheese, chocolate and cheese, and salamis and all of that. And then I want to talk about sandwiches too, because Havarti to me is like one of the best sandwiches.
Oh, I love it. It's great meltability. Yeah.
Oh God. Havarti is like underrated. I just like, come on everyone, get into the mode of, and provolone is good too when you have like a high powered meat. But so there's this balance. So when you talk about pairings, like right now people are doing cranberries and there's pomegranates out. We've got these powerful, strong flavors of fruits and even nuts. How do you put, you put those out there too, right? So they all kind of have to balance. Should it be like opposite? Like, what do you like? Sometimes the fruit is a finish to me. It's like have the cheese then finish with the fruit.
If I'm doing a blue, I would do a buttery cashew. It just kind of works. Pears are fabulous with cheese. A good ripe pear.
Earthy. Yeah, earthy.
A really good grape. A fabulous strawberry works really, really well. Things that kind of hold up the cheese. Some people put like honeycomb, things like that. I'm a little too much for me with cheese. It's got to be.
I am with you.
It's got to be a dance. It's got to be orchestrated. It's like a waltz.
Yeah.
There's a subtleness.
Somebody has to be the lead.
But to me,
somebody in the waltz has to be the lead.
Nancy and I on the road. A lot of times, I'll just take cheese and crackers. Because the cheese will stay in the cooler pretty good. And I'm like, all right, we're going to pull over, have our little picnic with wine, cheese, and crackers. Crackers can make a difference too. Are they too salty for the cheese? And
no, it depends what cracker, right?
Yeah, it is because some have like a weedy kind of.
Some are sour.
There's all kind. The crackers. Sometimes you get those water crackers, which are like, all right, I'm just a vessel. You put whatever on me. I don't care. Like that's the slave of the crackers. It's like, not a slave, but, that's a wrong word. It's just kind of like you can do anything with that. It doesn't seem, it has no flavor. You know what I mean? So I really use the wrong word. So everyone, please don't email me. It's just kind of like whatever is going to happen is going to happen, kind of cracker. The cheese is going to, like if you put brie on a water cracker, the brie wins, And then if you think you're going to put the brie on a cracker that even has, see, this is the thing. There's all these crackers with rosemary in it and stuff. Stop it.
Oh, yeah.
I kind of would rather do my own, but maybe it's good. I don't know. But you have to, you can't just think that the rosemary cracker is going to go well. It can be too perfumey. Like some of these crackers now are like so pumped up on stuff.
There's a ton of chemicals in there.
Yeah, additives, and sometimes just give me a damn saltine and some cheese. I'm all right. You know what I mean? It's kind of, we're going to.
I mean, my granny said that a crouton was nothing but a square cracker, and if you flatten the crouton, that you would have a cracker. And she says the same thing.
Probably what a cracker.
So one goes in that like you can put croutons in a soup.
I love making croutons, and any stale bread, cut that stuff up and put seasonings, and you can even put a little Parmesan in. If you have that dry stuff too, you can put it in there. But the croutons can make and break stuff, man. You can fix a casserole with croutons if you do them.
They're amazing, and they're wonderful to dip in fondue. A crouton, a good crouton. It's just wonderful.
And it is
That's
a different
good
form
idea.
of stuffing. It's just dry stuffing. It is.
Oh, yeah.
It's dry stuffing. And salads, soups, stews, casseroles. That's when I worked in the deli, they were like, keep the bread on this side. And then we would sit and look at what we had. We'd make trays of croutons for the salads and the soups the next day.
Right.
And it was like pumpernickel bread, and we would even take old bagels. And I thought the bagels made the best croutons compared to the bread. The bagels had this weird texture to it. But anyway, that's a whole other conversation. But man, the cheese thing, pairing it is the right crackers. And I think that's why when you go to a winery, they don't give you crackers that are tainted with other stuff on it. They just give you basic crackers because it's almost like a cleansing of your palate. Do you do like crackers that have taste on them, like stuff on it? Or do you do plain?
It depends on the cheese. Like if you have a lot of extra croutons, you make breadcrumbs out of them. You put them in a Robocoup, and then you put them in the oven. You bake them off a little bit. And you can put some herbs in it. And then I would take Chev, goat cheese, and I'd roll it in that and put that on the cheese tray. If I'm doing an alouette, which is a garlic, herby, or a boursin, I'm not going to put that on a heavy rosemary or basil cracker. I'm going to go more buttery and neutral because I don't want it to fight. My favorite thing with cheese is toasted French baguettes. You know, that just works. It works across the board. But it's an individual thing. You know, people, you know, it's like, remember the old days, you know, you can't have a red wine with fish. Well, sure you can.
Yeah,
right?
you can.
Why not? Do you like red wine? Have what you want. Life is short.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, so the cheese plate, I mean, you're talking about cocktails and stuff. I was thinking, I've never thought about, oh yeah, I don't have a rum and coke and cheese. Don't think I ever have, other than if I'm having a sandwich. You know, in a sandwich, I mean, what cheese you eat with avocado in a sandwich and bacon, like what makes a BLT and, you know, yeah, like cheddar. Like I always go for the white sharp cheddars. That's just a personal preference. I don't know why, but it's like pucker up, babies. As far as we can pucker up, the more we're going. You know, and that's why the Cheshire cheese. I mean, but it was always crumbled. But I think sometimes cheese is crumbly because it's frozen before you get it.
Oh,
I think
you don't want to do that.
No.
People freeze cheese, and it's not a good thing.
People freeze everything.
Don't freeze
I know,
cheese.
but it's not, unless you're going to dump it, grate it and put it in a sauce.
So
it
you said
the cheese.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
For a sauce, you bring up a good point. So you were talking about fontina. So if you were going to make your own mac and cheese or any kind of cheese sauce for something, so fontina would be in because of the fondue. Cheddaries?
Oh, yeah. Nice milky whole cheese, provolone, fontina, cheddar. Those all work. Mozzarella. You don't want to put a hard cheese in. You don't want to put like Parm or Pecorino or Locatelli because it makes it grainy. You want a soft cheese that's going to have that enough cream and
man.
where it's,
this is a dangerous show. I'm hungry now. Now, you know, seriously. Now the French onion soup. The provolone.
French onion's great.
Do you always put provolone on yours? I mean, that's what I was taught to do. But
Gruyere. You want to do Gruyere.
Oh.
You want to do Gruyere.
Yeah.
You do a Gruyere or a really good aged Emmentaler. You can use provolone, but Gruyere really works with the stock and the caramelized onions. It's got that bite and that tang. You know,
some dishes don't work without cheese. I'm just saying, it doesn't.
Yeah.
One time, my grandmother on Thanksgiving. This is so weird. The last 20, 30 minutes of the turkey being cooked, she pulled it out. She put a ton of different mixed grated cheeses in the turkey. She took croutons and mixed it in the turkey and put it back in. And
was it a roasted turkey or like bits of turkey?
Like, well, cooked, not roasted, just cooked in the oven. And put it back in for another 20 minutes. And then when the turkey was done, pulled it out. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen because all the cheese was on the outside of, came out of the turkey and was in the pan. And the best part of the whole meal was the cheese melted in the pan.
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, that's the thing. It's melted cheese. I don't care what melted cheese is everything.
It was so good. It tasted good, but there wasn't any cheese really, except a little bit, left inside the carcass of the turkey. It all came out. It dripped into the pan.
Wow. But that, I would be attacking the pan. There's like melted cheese, like the pizza.
We all
like
that's cheese.
Yeah. Ivan, what are your favorite cheeses for a pizza?
Oh, a really, really good whole milk mozzarella. And, you know, some people say put it on thinly sliced. Some people like it in crumbles. I like it sliced. put on the pizza, over the sauce, and where it's just kind of the whole pizza has that cheese covering. But crumble does well, but you have to buy good mozzarella. There's a lot of mozzarella out there, and a lot of it is really processed and not good. I love mozzarella fresh, but I wouldn't do it on a pizza because it gets watery. So I do more of a block mozzarella. And then some people, they'll put cheddar on and 3 cheese or 4 cheese, and now they cover it with pepperoni and bacon and beef. And, a simple cheese pizza like John's in New York on Bleecker Street, it's been there for, 80 years. It's the most incredible slice of pizza you've ever eaten in your life.
Wow. So, simple. That's what Nancy knows, simple. It's always better, even if we just make pizza out of naan bread or something. Simple.
Yes.
And it doesn't always have to be the tomato base either.
No.
When people are like right now, the holidays, or it's like, let's put cheese out. Cheeses, you go to the store, can be a little costly. So
yes.
What would you say to those listening that are going like, I can't afford all this stuff? You're talking about all these fancy cheeses. Like, what the hell are you talking about, y'all? It's not happening. We've had inflation going on, and I don't see it going away for some time. So what would you say folks can look at to do something on a budget, and not waste cheese?
Nubbins.
And sometimes when there's cheese left, don't throw it away. Put it in your soup, even if it's hard. And you know how that happens? People put the little toothpick on the cheese cube, and then it's like at the end of the night, the cheese cubes are all like rock hard. Don't throw them away. Like, put that in the
your best
tomato
bet
soup.
When you go to the supermarket and look for nubbins, those are small pieces that when they're cutting the cheese wheels down, they wrap them and they sell them at a discounted price. You can get nubbins, $3.50, $4 a piece, and you can get a lot of different nubbins, and you can make an incredible cheese platter. That's why they put them out there.
Wow. I didn't know that. Nubbins, because I've seen them before, and I've done cheeses that I didn't know what they were until I tasted them. I'm like, oh, this is pretty good. Let's try that. I mean, that's what's so interesting. It's like the grocery stores, they need to get stuff out. And, they're talking about how much food waste is happening because of the expiration date on things. Mm-hmm. And like cheese is mold, man. I'm just saying it's old. Expiration dates on cheese, maybe like if it's a feta or a gorgonzola and a crumble in those little containers, that is exposed. So when it's not in its little waxy compartment, then you can have oxidation and in all of that. But and it doesn't mean the whole bunch is gone either. So
and if there's mold on cheese, cut it off. It's fine.
Just cut it off.
That's
what I've done. It's like
just cut it off.
Living, So there's so many. If you go to a grocery store, look and see if they've got day-old bread that they're selling at a discount. It's fresh bread that they baked. Who cares if it's a day or two old? There's so many things you can do with it. That's why we have toasters and things. I find things in grocery stores all the time, and just because of an expiration date, it's about to get tossed. And it goes into landfill. Half the time it doesn't hit people that need food. And just, expiration date stuff, you just don't know. Sometimes I feel like there should be a guide on what to know about expiration dates. If it's coming out of the can, well, it's already been contaminated.
The sniff test. The sniff test should tell you everything you need to know about your food.
Look at your food. Yeah, exactly. So the expiration date, I mean, there's always something you can do with something, unless it is really time to pitch it, right? Ivan, it's cheese. Don't stress on it it's when it's packed. A lot of times you can find when it was packed, and if you're getting it from the counter, you've got some life in there, right? If you're getting it from the actual deli counter. So don't stress on it. And that's a good thing about cheese. You can keep it in the block. Everyone, we've got this podcast up on blendradioandtv.com, and we hope you have a wonderful holiday season. Ivan, if you're going to make a cheese ball with fancy little things on the side, what are you putting on it? What's on your cheese ball? It's not sweaty.
If I'm going to blend, like make a cheese ball with a couple of different cheeses.
Yeah.
I would definitely do like a mozzarella.
Uh-huh.
Maybe with a little sharp cheddar mixed in.
Ooh.
Also, maybe with a little boursin, and then make the ball out of it that way. Maybe some herbs. Keep it very simple.
Good. Very cool. Very cool. Well, thank you so much, Chef Ivan. Happy holidays to you
you're welcome.
and Tracy and all your animals. And we'll talk to you soon.
Cool.
Take care.
Thanks for joining us here on Big Blend Radio's Eat, Drink, and Be Merry show. Keep up with our podcasts at bigblendradio.com and our magazines at bigblendmagazines.com.